Brother Palmu, can you recall a time when you had little faith?
Yes, I can recall. When I was 17, I moved to serve as an auxiliary pioneer with an isolated group far away from my home. There I faced very religious people who were convinced that we witnesses were wrong and that I was badly misled. They asked questions about scriptures I never encountered in my former territory. The people were very convincing with their arguments, and I felt confused and lost. I asked myself, are there other questions too I don't have answers to? And this started little by little bothering me and tested my faith. I didn't have bound volumes, no what's the library, or those kinds of tools. So I wrote a letter to my fleshly brothers who at that time were in prison because of refusing military service. I knew that they had all of our literature there, and they were studying every day the Bible like scholars. They saw my situation, and they sent me a letter with answers to all my questions. I was so happy and thanked Jehovah. It really strengthened my faith. This experience was decisive, a hallmark to my whole spiritual life. I understood the value of accurate knowledge, and I started to collect a library of my own. I still have my early library, and to me it is something very special. This experience happened 56 years ago, and since then I have not had any such doubts. Jehovah has given us all the answers we need to know. And even if there are questions we don't have answers to at the moment, I have faith that they will be answered by Jehovah in His due time.
Thank you, Brother Palmu. Your experience really helps us to appreciate the Bible's answers to life's most complex questions.
If you say so, John Ekron. For me, what this experience helps me to appreciate is that it's possible for even a branch committee member to have doubts. This is Jouni Palmu, who is on the Finland branch committee, talking about his experience as a 17-year-old pioneer. Isn't it interesting that they are cherry-picking the top brass for this dedication talk? We have a branch committee member. He's going to be followed by a Bethelite. They can't just call on an ordinary rank and file member to get a realistic impression of what it's like to be a Jehovah's Witness and the real life struggles of ordinary rank and file members when it comes to living up to their dedication. No, they dip into their reservoir of Bethelites, and in this case, branch committee members. But because this organization is deluded, quite frankly, they can't help but slip in some indications that this particular branch committee member might have doubts, because towards the end, he says,
even if there are questions we don't have answers to at the moment, I have faith that they will be answered by Jehovah in His due time.
You wouldn't say that if you didn't genuinely have questions that can't be answered, would you? If you felt like you had all of the answers, if you felt like you had the total truth as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, why would you say that? This is telling me that Jouni Palmu does have questions that can't be answered, but like most Jehovah's Witnesses, he is waiting on Jehovah. He is burying his head in the sand and hoping that one day everything just magically corrects itself, which of course is just never going to happen. The only way it will correct itself is if Jouni wakes up to the fact that he's in a cult, which is going to be a bitter pill to swallow, having devoted, 60 years of his life to serving Jehovah. I also love the part where Jouni refers to his library.
And I started to collect a library of my own. I still have my early library, and to me it is something very special.
Well, I'm with Jouni on that one. I too view my library of spiritual food as something very special, but for an entirely different reason. Jouni thinks that his books contain wisdom from the faithful slave down through the years. I know they contain no such thing. In fact, it's interesting and ironic that when you're waking up from Jehovah's Witness indoctrination, you assume that apostates will be turning you away from spiritual food. You assume that people will be saying, whatever you do, don't read the stuff that comes from the faithful slave. We've got something different for you to read. In truth, that's not how it works. JW Facts, if you go on JW Facts, is pretty much mostly turning people back to the spiritual food. Because it turns out that the best way of showing someone, showing a Jehovah's Witness that is, that they're being misled, is to show actual examples from the literature of the organization making false promises, of the organization bringing out new light, or recommending some weird medical quackery. It's all in there, spanning decades, going all the way back to Charles Taze Russell. If you're interested, these are my studies in the scriptures. I've got books that were written by Rutherford, the full Rutherford Rainbow. It's all up there. And I consult this stuff because I consider it to be part of the inoculation. It's like when you're combating a disease, you use a small part of the virus, don't you? I guess, to develop the vaccine. And this material behind me is incredibly useful in showing Jehovah's Witnesses how they are being misled. I've done it in this very video, if you noticed, when I referred earlier on to the creation book. All of the lies, all of the deceptions, all of the manipulation is on full display. So yes, I'm fully behind Jouni when it comes to collecting Watchtower materials. I just wish he were able to read his library objectively and come to the correct, if painful, conclusion that this isn't the truth, and that in actual fact, sadly, he's wasted 60 years devoting his time and energy to a cult.